Welcome, friend. Tonight, we journey into the peaceful world of giant pandas, those gentle black and white bears who spend their days munching bamboo in misty mountain forests. Let your body relax completely. Let your breathing slow and deepen into the rhythm of a panda's peaceful day. There's nothing to do tonight, nowhere to be, just gentle facts about one of Earth's most beloved creatures, carrying you softly toward sleep. If this journey brings you peace, consider leaving a like and subscribe to drift through more animal wonders with us. We have countless soothing stories waiting to lull you into restful dreams. Pandas are bears who chose the quiet life. While their relatives hunt and roam, pandas sit peacefully in bamboo forests, chewing slowly, moving little, living at a pace that makes sloths look energetic. They're nature's meditation masters, proof that slowness can be a survival strategy, that gentleness has its place in the wild world. Tonight, their calm becomes your calm, their peaceful rhythm guiding you toward sleep. Let's begin our gentle journey into the bamboo forests. A newborn panda weighs less than an apple. At birth, giant panda cubs are about 100 grams lighter than a stick of butter, small enough to fit in your palm. Compare this to their mother, who weighs about 100 kilograms, 1,000 times heavier. It's like a human giving birth to a baby the size of a large grape. This is the most extreme size difference between mother and newborn of any placental mammal on Earth. The tiny cub is pink, hairless, and completely helpless. Its eyes are sealed shut, its ears barely formed. It cannot regulate its own temperature, cannot eliminate waste without its mother's help, cannot even crawl. It's barely more developed than a marsupial joey, despite pandas being placental mammals. For the first few weeks, the cub does nothing but nurse and sleep against its mother's warm body. This extreme helplessness results from pandas' unusual reproductive strategy. Female pandas are fertile for only 24 to 72 hours per year, one of the shortest fertility windows of any mammal. To maximize the chance of conception during this brief period, the embryo develops quickly, resulting in a premature birth. The cub finishes developing outside the womb, cradled and protected by its devoted mother. The mother panda barely moves for the first month after birth. She cradles the tiny infant against her chest, one paw curved protectively around it, remaining almost motionless to avoid crushing the fragile creature. She doesn't leave the den, doesn't eat, rarely even shifts position. It's total devotana, mother's complete focus on keeping her vulnerable infant alive through those critical first weeks. This beginning, tiny, helpless, utterly dependent is how every giant panda starts life, including the ones you've seen in videos, sitting peacefully, munching bamboo, looking so sturdy and self-sufficient. They all began as apple-weight infants, surviving only through their mother's fierce protection and gentle care. Pandas spend 12 to 16 hours every day eating. That's 2/3 of their entire existence dedicated to consuming bamboo siding among the green stalks, methodically selecting shoots, crunching through stems, moving to new spots, repeating endlessly. If you spent the same proportion of your day eating, you'd be consuming food for 16 hours out of every 24, barely stopping to sleep or do anything else. This marathon feeding session is necessary because bamboo is nutritionally poor. It contains very little protein or fat, mostly indigestible cellulose and water. A panda must consume 26 to 84 pounds of bamboo daily to extract enough nutrition to survive. That's like eating your body weight in celery every single day, chewing constantly, processing enormous quantities just to stay alive. Yet pandas have the digestive system of a carnivore, not an herbivore. Their intestines are short and simple, designed for processing meat, not plant matter. They lack the complex, multi-chambered stomachs of cows or the specialized hindgut fermentation of horses. They're bears trying to live like sheep, using meat-eating equipment to process plant material, succeeding through sheer volume and determination. Their bodies extract only about 17% of bamboo's available energy. The rest passes through undigested, creating the impressive 40-plus pounds of droppings they produce daily. It's an inefficient system. Most of what they eat goes to waste, but it works well enough. Bamboo is abundant in their mountain forests, available year-round, uncontested by other large animals. Sometimes evolutionary success isn't about optimization, but about finding a niche no one else occupies. You're watching a panda eat. You're watching meditation in motion. The slow selection, the methodical chewing, the peaceful focus. It's mindfulness, embodied presence in physical form. Perhaps that's part of why pandas soothe us. They model a way of being we've forgotten, hurried, focused, content with simplicity. Pandas have a thumb that isn't really a thumb. This pseudo-thumb is actually an enlarged wrist bone, the radial sesamoid that extends from the side of the paw, working with the 5 regular fingers to create a gripping mechanism. It's like having 6 fingers, except the 6th is a modified wrist bone rather than a true digit. Evolution's jury-rigged solution to a feeding problem. This pseudo-thumb allows pandas to manipulate bamboo stalks precisely. They can strip leaves from stems, select young shoots, position food for optimal chewing. All actions requiring dexterity unusual in bears. Watch a panda eat and you'll see them handling bamboo almost like you'd handle chopsticks, rotating stalks, adjusting angles, showing fine motor control you wouldn't expect from a large carnivore. The pseudo-thumb evolved specifically for bamboo feeding. Pandas' ancestors were carnivores who gradually shifted to a bamboo diet as they moved into mountainous regions where bamboo was abundant but prey was scarce. Over millions of years, natural selection favored individuals with longer radial sesamoids, eventually creating the functional thumb we see today. It's not a perfect solution. The pseudo-thumb is shorter and less flexible than a true thumb, limiting some manipulations, but it's sufficient good enough to allow bamboo specialization, adequate for the task at hand. Evolution rarely creates perfection. It produces functional compromises, workable solutions that enable survival even if they're not ideal. You have real thumbs, opposable ones, probably the most sophisticated grasping tools in the animal kingdom. Yet the panda's fake thumb does its job just fine, reminding us that perfection isn't necessary, that adequate solutions often suffice, that evolution works with what's available rather than designing from scratch. Pandas can eat bamboo that would give other animals splinters. Bamboo is tough, woody, sometimes sharp-edged, essentially eating grass that grew to tree height and developed defensive properties. Yet pandas crunch through it effortlessly, stems that would shred your mouth, barely slowing them down. Their mouths are specialized fortresses against bamboo's defenses. They have the strongest bite of any bear species. Pound for pound, a panda's jaws generate more force than a grizzly's, powered by massive jaw muscles that give their heads that distinctive, rounded appearance. Those cute, round cheeks, They're actually powerful grinding apparatus, muscles capable of crushing bamboo stems 3 inches thick. Their teeth are adapted for grinding rather than tearing. Unlike typical carnivore teeth sharp for slicing meat, panda molars are broad and flat, perfect for crushing fibrous plant material. They have 7 molars in each jaw quadrant, unusually high forebears, creating extensive grinding surfaces that pulverize bamboo into digestible fragments. Their tongues and throats are protected by thick papillae. These tough, spiky projections act like armor, preventing bamboo splinters from damaging soft tissues. Their esophagus has a tough, keratin-reinforced lining, essentially armor for their food, allowing them to swallow bamboo fragments that would injure unprotected throats. When you eat salad, it's soft, cultivated, bred for tenderness. Pandas are eating the equivalent of wooden stalks coated in silica, managing just fine through evolutionary adaptations we barely notice until we look closely. Every bite requires specialized equipment we take for granted because they make it look so easy. A panda's fur is 2 to 3 inches thick, denser than a wool sweater, creating insulation against the cold mountain climates they inhabit. Each hair is coarse and oily, water-resistant, keeping the panda dry even in heavy mist or rain. The undercoat traps warm air against the skin, while the outer layer sheds moisture, creating a microclimate that keeps them comfortable in conditions that would chill less adapted animals. The black and white pattern serves multiple purposes that scientists still debate. The white fur may provide camouflage in snowy environments, while the black legs, ears, and eye patches might help pandas recognize each other in dense bamboo forests. Or the contrasting colors might break up the panda's outline, making it harder for predators to distinguish the bear's shape, though adult pandas have few natural predators. Recent research suggests the coloration might be thermoregulatory. The black fur, which absorbs heat, covers the ears, legs, and shoulders extremities, and areas prone to cold. The white fur, which reflects heat, covers the body core. This pattern might help pandas maintain stable body temperature in variable mountain climates, conserving energy in already energy animals. The eye patches might serve social functions. Their distinct shapes make pandas' facial expressions more visible to other pandas, enhancing communication. The bold pattern also makes pandas appear larger and more intimidating when needed. Defensive adaptation in animals that prefer peaceful coexistence but can defend themselves when necessary. You bundle up for cold weather, adding layers. Pandas were born with their coat already perfect for mountain living, lated, waterproof, patterned in ways that serve multiple functions. They don't need to adapt to seasons. They're pre-adapted, comfortable year-round in their bamboo forests. Pandas sleep anywhere from 8 to 12 hours per day. This is less than you might expect from such sedentary animals. They actually sleep less than many other bear species. The rest of their time is spent eating, moving slowly between feeding sites, or sitting quietly digesting their enormous meals. It's a life of minimal activity, energy conservation taken to its logical extreme. They don't hibernate despite being bears. Most bear species hibernate through winter when food becomes scarce, living off stored fat while their metabolism slows dramatically. Pandas cannot do this. Bamboo is available year-round in their mountain forests, but it's so low in nutrition that pandas cannot build up sufficient fat reserves to survive months without eating. They must keep eating continuously, even in winter. Instead of hibernating, Pandas move to lower elevations in winter. As heavy snows cover high-altitude bamboo, pandas descend the mountains, following bamboo availability, staying where food remains accessible. They don't migrate long distances a few thousand feet. Elevation change is usually sufficient, but they do move seasonally, adjusting their range to maintain access to their crucial food source. Their sleep patterns are polyphasic, multiple sleep periods throughout the day rather than one long rest. They'll eat for a few hours, sleep for a bit, wake and eat more, sleep again, creating a cycle that repeats through day and night with little distinction between them. Time loses meaning when you're a panda. There's no rush, no schedule, just the eternal rhythm of eat, rest, eat, rest. If you adopted a panda's schedule, you'd spend 16 hours eating and 12 hours sleeping, eating up to 28 hours, which reveals that pandas multitask, dozing while digesting, resting between bites, blurring the line between eating and sleeping into one continuous low-energy existence. Pandas can stand on their hind legs for extended periods. Despite weighing 200 to 300 pounds, they can rear up and balance comfortably, using this position to reach higher bamboo stalks, mark trees with scent glands on their tails, or investigate their surroundings. It's like a person your weight doing a sustained squat, except pandas make it look effortless. They also climb trees, and quite well. Young pandas especially are excellent climbers, ascending trunks that seem too smooth for such large animals, finding refuge in branches when threatened, or simply for a nap. They'll doze in tree forks 20 feet up, apparently unconcerned about falling, comfortable in elevated positions that seem precarious for animals their size. Their tree climbing ability declines with age. Adult pandas become less agile, their weight making climbing more difficult, though they never completely lose the skill. You'll occasionally see videos of adult pandas in trees, usually in awkward positions, sometimes getting stuck, requiring careful maneuvering to descend safely. It's endearing, these powerful animals rendered clumsy by their own bulk. Pandas also swim, though they rarely do so by choice. They're capable swimmers when necessary, paddling across rivers in their territory, but they prefer to stay dry. Water crossings are obstacles to avoid rather than routes to embrace, nuisances in their otherwise terrestrial lifestyle. You're more athletic than you might think when compared to pandas. They can climb, swim, stand upright, yet they rarely do any of these energetically. They're built for these activities, but choose not to expend energy unnecessarily. It's ability without ambition, capacity without desire to use it, potential forever on reserve. A panda's heart rate is slow, about 40 beats per minute at rest, half the rate of similarly sized mammals. This bradycardious low heart rate reflects their low-energy lifestyle, their bodies operating at metabolic idle, barely above the minimum needed for life. Their blood pressure is also low, circulation just sufficient to move oxygen around without rushing. Their body temperature is lower than most mammals. Pandas maintain about 36 degrees Celsius, about 1 degree cooler than humans, another energy-saving adaptation. Keeping warm requires energy. By running slightly cool, pandas reduce their metabolic demands, stretching their meager bamboo calories further. They're living in slow motion physiologically as well as behaviorally. Everything operates at reduced intensity, heart beating slowly, digestion proceeding leisurely, movements minimal and deliberate. It's like they've turned down all their internal dials to low, conserving energy at every level. This energy economy is survival strategy. Bamboo provides so little nutrition that pandas cannot afford energetically expensive activities, no running unless necessary, no playing once maturity arrives, no wasted motion. Every calorie is budgeted, every movement justified by necessity rather than pleasure. You can lower your heart rate through relaxation and breathing. Right now, as you rest, your heart is slowing, approaching the panda's resting rate, your body naturally finding the calm that pandas live in continuously. Let your physiology follow their examples, slow, steady, peaceful. Pandas have lived in China for 8 million years. Fossil records show Ailuropoda, the panda lineage, merging in the late Miocene epoch, when the world was warmer and bamboo was spreading across Asian mountains. These ancient pandas were smaller than modern ones, but recognizably similar, already showing adaptations for bamboo feeding, already committed to the lifestyle that defines them today. During the Pleistocene ice ages, pandas ranged much more widely. Fossils have been found across southern China and into Burma and Vietnam, range several times larger than today's restricted mountain refuges. Climate fluctuations expanded and contracted suitable habitat, pandas moving across the landscape, following the bamboo, adapting to changing conditions. The modern giant panda Ailuropoda melanoleuca appeared about 3 million years ago. This species evolved to its current form during the Pliocene, developing the distinctive coloration, large size, and specialized bamboo adaptations we see today. For 3 million years, essentially unchanged, surviving ice ages and climate changes through behavioral flexibility and habitat specialization. Only in the past few thousand years have pandas become restricted to small mountain ranges. As humans expanded across China, clearing forests for agriculture, hunting pandas for pelts, pandas retreated to steeper terrain, smaller habitat patches, the remote mountains that remain their last strongholds today. You live in a world that existed long after pandas did. They watched the Pleistocene unfold, survived climate changes that drove countless species extinct, persisted through upheavals that reshaped the world. They're ancient, successful, resilient, though you might not guess it from their current precarious status. Female pandas are fertile for only 2 to 3 days per year. This is among the shortest fertility windows of any mammal, just 24 to 72 hours annually when conception is possible. Miss this window, and the entire year is lost reproductively. It's like having one opportunity to accomplish something crucial, knowing that failure means waiting 362 more days to try again. Males must find receptive females during this brief period. In the wild, females communicate their fertility through scent-marking leaving urine and anal gland secretions on trees and rocks, chemical announcements that drift through the bamboo forest. Males detect these signals and seek out fertile females, competing with other males for mating opportunities. Even successful mating doesn't guarantee pregnancy. The fertilized egg doesn't implant immediately, but undergoes delayed implantation, floating freely in the uterus for several months before attaching and beginning development. This delay means cubs are born in late winter or early spring, when conditions are optimal for infant survival, even though mating occurred in spring or summer. Gestation after implantation is only about 6 weeks. This extremely short gestation produces those tiny, underdeveloped cubs mentioned earlier, born premature by necessity, finishing development outside the womb. The entire reproductive process is a series of biological challenges, each step requiring precise timing and favorable conditions. You exist because your ancestors had longer fertility windows, more mating opportunities, better reproductive odds. Pandas' reproductive strategy is risky. It works just barely well enough to maintain populations. Success always uncertain, breeding always difficult. It's a precarious approach to continuation, efficiency sacrificed for unknown evolutionary reasons. Let your breathing slow to match a panda's peaceful rhythm. 40 breaths per minute when active, dropping to 20 during rest, slower still during deep sleep. Your chest rising and falling like a panda's. Gentle waves, no urgency, just the soft tide of breath moving through you, carrying you deeper into relaxation. Pandas can rotate their ankles backwards. This adaptation, rare among animals, allows them to descend trees head first, maintaining grip with their hind claws while moving downward. Most bears must back down trees awkwardly. Pandas can face forward, seeing where they're going, descending with relative grace despite their bulk. Their claws are retractable like a cat's, but much larger, up to 2 inches long, curved, sharp. These formidable tools are perfect for gripping bamboo, climbing trees, and occasional self-defense, though pandas rarely use them aggressively. They're more tools than weapons, adaptations for their arboreal lifestyle rather than predatory behavior. Pandas have excellent grip strength. Those massive jaw muscles extend to their forelimbs, creating powerful grasping ability. A panda can hold bamboo stalks firmly enough to strip leaves with precision, climb vertical trunks without slipping, and maintain holds that would exhaust human climbers in minutes. Their paws are partially webbed, with thick pads providing traction. The foot structure combines bear and cat features, heavy padding, like a bear's, for long-distance walking, retractable claws, like a cat's, for climbing. It's hybrid anatomy, mixing features from different lineages, creating tools suited to pandas' unique lifestyle. You have specialized hands too, though different ones. Opposable thumbs, sensitive fingertips, precise motor control. Your hands are masterpieces of evolution. Pandas' hands are different but equally adapted to their needs. Both work perfectly for their purposes. Neither is objectively superior. Evolution creates fit for function, not universal excellence. Pandas communicate primarily through scent marking. While they can vocalize, making bleats, honks, barks, and roars, their most sophisticated communication happens through chemistry. They mark trees, rocks, and logs with urine and secretions from anal glands, leaving messages that other pandas can read, like a bulletin board in the bamboo forest. These scent marks convey identity, sex, age, and reproductive status. Each panda's scent profile is unique, like a chemical fingerprint, allowing individuals to recognize each other without meeting face to face. Males can determine from scent alone whether a female is fertile, how long ago she passed through the area, even how her health is doing. It's complex information packed into a sniff. Pandas perform handstands to mark higher on trees. Seriously, they'll back up to a tree, rise on their front paws, and urinate upward in a sort of vertical yoga position. Higher marks are more impressive, signaling a larger animal. So pandas stretch to reach maximum height, advertising their size through scent placement as much as through scent itself. They mark strategically along paths and boundaries. Certain trees become community signposts, marked repeatedly by multiple pandas, accumulating layers of sent messages. It's like a social media platform for pandas, checking the marks, leaving updates, reading what others have posted, all without direct interaction. You communicate with words and screens. Pandas communicate with scent and placement. Neither method is primitive or advanced. They're just different, each perfectly adapted to the species using it. Pandas don't need language, they have chemistry, and it works beautifully for solitary animals sharing a forest without wanting constant company. Pandas have only one cub survive to independence. Typically, female pandas often give birth to twins. About half of all births produce to cubs, but mothers almost always raise only one, focusing all attention on the larger, stronger infant, while the weaker twin is neglected and dies within days. This seems cruel by human standards, but it's survival strategy. Panda mothers cannot produce enough milk to raise two cubs simultaneously on their nutrient-poor bamboo diet. Attempting to feed both would likely result in both dying. By focusing on one, she ensures at least one cub survives harsh mathematics of energy limitation in a specialist species. In captivity, keepers can swap twins, alternating which cub nurses while keeping the other in an incubator. The mother treats whichever cub is with her as her only infant, allowing both twins to survive through human intervention. This swapping technique has dramatically improved captive breeding success, raising survival rates for twins from nearly 0 to over 90%. In the wild, no swapping is possible. One cub lives, the other dies, usually within the first week when the mother makes her choice soar more accurately. When biology makes the choice for her, natural selection operating at its most basic level, survival of the fittest, starting before cubs even open their eyes. You were an only child, or you shared resources with siblings. Either way, you survived the vulnerable infant period. Panda cubs have only a 50% chance if they're born as twins. Your existence required certain circumstances aligning, so does theirs. Every life represents an improbable chain of necessary conditions, all happening correctly. A panda's sense of smell is exceptional, while their vision is mediocre and their hearing average. Their olfactory abilities rival those of bears famous for their noses. They can detect scent marks days old, distinguish individual pandas by scent alone, smell bamboo shoots beneath snow, and find the most nutritious plants through olfactory assessment. This scent sensitivity guides their diet selection. Not all bamboo is equally nutritious. Shung shoots contain more protein than mature stems. Certain species are more digestible than others. Seasonal variations affect nutrient content. Pandas smell their way to the best food, selecting plants that maximize nutrition from their limited menu. They also use smell to avoid each other. Pandas are solitary by nature, preferring to maintain distance from conspecifics outside breeding season. Scent marks act as keep-away signs, informing other pandas that an area is occupied, reducing direct confrontations, allowing multiple pandas to share a mountain range while maintaining personal space. Only during mating season do they seek out rather than avoid each other's scents. Then the chemical signals become attractants rather than warnings, drawing males to fertile females, facilitating the rare encounters necessary for reproduction. The same molecules that say stay away most of the year say come here for those critical few days. You navigate your world primarily through vision. Pandas navigate theirs primarily through scent. Each of you experiences reality through different sensory priorities, creating different perceptual universes. The forest you'd see, a panda would smell. Two beings in the same space, experiencing it completely differently. Pandas vocalize more than you'd expect from such quiet animals. They have at least 11 distinct vocal calls, ranging from bleats and barks to roars and squeals. Mother and cubs communicate through soft chirps and bleats, maintaining contact when separated, coordinating movements, providing comfort. Males roar during competition, warning rivals, establishing dominance without fighting when possible. Cubs are particularly vocal. They'll bleat when hungry, squeal when uncomfortable, cry when separated from mother. Typical infant vocalizations, ensuring their needs are met. As they mature, they quiet down, becoming the silent, contemplative bears we imagine, reserving voice for important communications. The most unusual sound is the bleat, a goat-like call used in friendly contexts. Pandas bleat when greeting each other amicably, during mating interactions, when mothers and cubs reunite. It's a gentle sound, surprisingly high-pitched for such large animals, almost endearing in its innocuousness. They also huff, snort, and chomp non-vocal sounds made with breath and teeth. Chomping rapidly clicking teeth together signals anxiety or annoyance, a warning before more aggressive action. Huffing expresses mild displeasure. These subtle signals allow pandas to communicate emotional states without resorting to physical confrontation. You might talk throughout your day. Pandas are silent for hours, days even, speaking only when necessary, conserving energy even in communication. Words are costly in the panda economy, used sparingly, each vocalization justified by need rather than habit. Giant pandas have been studied scientifically for less than 150 years, despite living alongside humans for millennia in Chinese culture. Formal scientific study didn't begin until the late 19th century when Western scientists discovered them. For most of human history, pandas were known only to local Chinese populations, creatures of myth as much as reality to the outside world. The first live giant panda, seen by Westerners, arrived in America in 1936. Sulin, a cub captured in China and brought to Chicago's Brookfield Zoo, caused a sensation. Crowds lined up for hours to glimpse this rare creature that seemed more legend than real. A bear that ate plants, lived in mountains, looked like it wore a costume. Pandamania was born. For decades, zoos competed fiercely for pandas. Having pandas became the ultimate status symbol for zoological institutions, proof of international connections, sources of tremendous public interest and revenue. China carefully controlled access, lending pandas as diplomatic gifts, using these animals as soft power tools in international relations. Modern panda diplomacy is more sophisticated. China maintains ownership of all pandas worldwide. Foreign zoos pay annual fees for loan agreements with strict breeding protocols requiring any cubs born abroad to return to China eventually. It's international wildlife management mixed with diplomacy. Pandas serving as ambassadors for conservation and Chinese cultural prestige. You've probably seen pandas only in zoos or videos, never in wild. Most people have. Wild pandas are rare, elusive, inhabiting remote mountains, difficult to access. The pandas you know are cultural pandas ambassadors, symbols, icons, not the solitary, bamboo-chewing hermits living in misty Chinese forests. Pandas sleep in various positions, often contorted in ways that seem uncomfortable. They'll doze sprawled on their backs, limbs akimbo, looking utterly relaxed. They'll curl into balls against tree trunks. They'll drape themselves across branches like oversized house cats. There's no standard panda sleeping position. Whatever works in the moment is fine. They often sleep while sitting upright, head dropped to chest, appearing to meditate rather than sleep. This position allows quick waking if danger approaches while being restful enough to restore energy. It's the nap position of choice deep. Sleep happens lying down, but quick rest happens sitting up. Cubs sleep more than adults sup to 14 hours daily compared to adults 8 to 12. Young pandas are still growing, development requiring rest, their bodies building the structures that will carry them through adulthood. As they mature, sleep needs decrease, settling into the adult pattern of moderate sleep interspersed with constant eating. Pandas dream, presumably. They show REM sleep, rapid eye movement, the phase associated with dreaming in humans and other mammals. What do pandas dream about? Bamboo forests, presumably. Perhaps mothers dream of cubs, cubs dream of play, males dream of territory and mates. Or perhaps pandas' dreams are as slow and peaceful as their waking lives. You're sleeping longer than a panda tonight, probably. 8 hours is typical for humans. Pandas manage with less. Their rest needs modest compared to the eating demands that dominate their time. But tonight, let your sleep be as peaceful as theirs, deep, restorative, untroubled by the concerns that agitate waking life. Bamboo shoots grow incredibly fast. This is among the fastest growth rates of any plant. New shoots rocketing skyward, racing to reach sunlight before competitors shade them out. Pandas time their feeding to coincide with shoot emergence, taking advantage of this nutritious, rapidly growing food source when available. Different bamboo species grow at different times. Mountain ranges contain multiple bamboo species with staggered growing seasons, providing year-round fresh shoots if pandas move between species. This diversity is crucial. Monocultures would create feast or famine conditions. Variety ensures constant availability. Bamboo also periodically flowers, then dies. This mass flowering happening on cycles of 15 to 120 years, depending on species, creates crisis for pandas. When bamboo flowers, it stops producing edible shoots and leaves, focusing all energy on seed production. Then the parent plants die, leaving pandas without food until new bamboo grows from scattered seeds, process taking years. Historical bamboo die-offs have caused panda starvation events. Before conservation efforts, pandas died by dozens during flowering events, unable to find alternative food sources, trapped in habitat patches surrounded by human development, preventing migration to areas with living bamboo. These natural cycles became catastrophes when combined with habitat fragmentation. You depend on agriculture for food. Pandas depend on wild bamboo. Humans can switch foods easily. Pandas cannot. Their specialization is both strength, no competition for bamboo, and vulnerability. When bamboo fails, they have few alternatives. It's the gamble of specialization, excellence in one thing, creating fragility in everything else. Pandas have lost 97% of their historical range. Once distributed across much of southern China and into neighboring countries, they're now restricted to 6 small mountain ranges in central China, lands of habitat separated by farms, cities, roads. It's like being confined to a few small neighborhoods after once having an entire country to roam. fewer than 2,000 wild pandas remain. This number has been slowly increasing due to conservation efforts, up from a low of about 1,000 in the 1970s, but it's still critically small. For perspective, there are more tigers, more elephants, more rhinos than wild pandas, surprising given pandas' cultural prominence. Their habitat is fragmented into isolated patches. Pandas in different mountain ranges are essentially separate populations, unable to interbreed due to barriers valleys converted to agriculture, rivers dammed and developed, roads cutting through migration corridors. This fragmentation causes genetic isolation, reducing diversity, increasing vulnerability to local disasters. Habitat corridors are being restored to connect populations. Conservation efforts focus on reforestation, creating bamboo bridges between patches, allowing genetic exchange, giving pandas room to move during bamboo die-offs. You live in a world transformed by human activity. Pandas live in the remnants of what used to be. Their world has shrunk dramatically within living human memory, their habitat loss occurring faster than evolution can respond. Their survivors clinging to refuges, dependent now on human goodwill for continued existence. A panda's jaw muscles comprise up to 40% of their head's volume. These massive chewing muscles, the temporalis and massetercrete, the rounded, almost circular head shape that makes pandas look so endearing. That cuteness is actually concentrated grinding power, evolutionary adaptation for processing tough bamboo all day, every day. Their skulls are reinforced to handle the stress. Bone ridges along the skull's midline and sides provide attachment points for jaw muscles, distributing force, preventing skull damage from constant chewing. Their skulls are literally built like crash helmets, reinforced against repetitive impact. An adult panda can bite through bamboo stems 3 inches thick. That's comparable to biting through a baseball bat woody. Tough, resistant material that pandas process with apparent ease. The crushing force approaches that of large carnivores, surprising in an animal that uses this power on plants rather than prey. Yet they're surprisingly gentle when needed. Mother pandas carry tiny cubs in their mouths without harm, moving them with the same jaws that crush bamboo into splinters. It's fine motor control married to tremendous strength, precision, and power in the same package. You bite with about 1/8 the force of a panda, enough for your omnivorous diet, insufficient for their bamboo specialization. Your jaw muscles are modest, leaving your face mobile, expressive. Pandas sacrifice expressiveness for power, their faces less flexible but capable of feats your jaws could never accomplish. Pandas are surprisingly good swimmers, despite rarely choosing to swim. They dog paddle efficiently, moving through water with coordination that belies their terrestrial preference. In the wild, pandas cross rivers when necessary, swimming without apparent fear or difficulty, treating water as obstacle rather than danger. They can dive underwater briefly, holding their breath, using swimming to escape threats if necessary. It's emergency capability rather than preferred activity, life-saving skill held in reserve, available when required but otherwise unused. Like many abilities pandas possess but rarely display its potential without regular practice. Cubs must learn to swim, sometimes through unexpected baptism. Mothers occasionally carry cubs across streams, but young pandas sometimes slip into water accidentally, forced to learn swimming through necessity. Most figure it out quickly instinct, plus panic creating adequate technique, though some cubs require rescue from more competent swimmers. Their dense fur becomes very heavy when wet. Waterlogged panda fur can weigh 10 to 15 pounds, significant burden on an animal trying to stay afloat. This weight disadvantage makes prolonged swimming exhausting. Another reason pandas avoid water when possible. They swim capably but not comfortably, managing when required but preferring to stay dry. You probably swim better than a panda, proportionally. Humans are decent swimmers for terrestrial mammals' upright posture, manipulative hands, reasonable breath control. Pandas swim adequately, but not naturally. Their build better suited to climbing and walking than aquatic locomotion. Neither of you are seals, but you're probably the better swimmer of the two. Pandas have been Earth's conservation icons since the 1960s. The World Wildlife Fund chose a panda as its logo in 1961, making this Chinese bear the global symbol for wildlife conservation. That simple black and white image became synonymous with endangered species protection, conservation funding, and environmental awareness worldwide. This icon's status has been mixed blessing. Pandas attract enormous conservation funding, possibly more than any other species, with millions spent annually on research, habitat protection, and captive breeding. Critics argue this money would save more species if distributed differently. That panda charisma monopolizes resources needed elsewhere. Yet pandas serve as umbrella species. Protecting panda habitat protects entire ecosystems, the birds, insects, plants, fungi, and other animals sharing those mountain forests. Saving pandas means saving their whole ecological community, making the investment broader than single-species conservation. They're also flagship species for China's conservation efforts. Protecting pandas requires addressing pollution, habitat destruction. Climate changes is affecting all Chinese wildlife. Pandas create political will for environmental protection that benefits far more than just bamboo-eating bears. You know pandas likely better than most other endangered species. That familiarity isn't accident, it's deliberate conservation strategy, using charisma to generate concern, turning cute bears into symbols that mobilize action. Whether that's the best approach is debatable, but it's undeniably been effective for pandas. Let your mind drift like mist through bamboo forests, soft and formless, touching nothing, disturbed by nothing. Just gentle presence, moving through green stillness. No urgency, no destination, just peaceful wandering through imagined forests where pandas sleep. A panda's day lacks human concepts of schedule. They don't have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but continuous grazing eating whenever awake, sleeping when tired, following internal rhythms divorced from clock time. There are no pandas rushing to work, no pandas stressed about deadlines. They exist in perpetual now, present-focused, responding to immediate needs without planning future obligations. This timeless existence is possible because bamboo is always available. No hunting required, no crops to plant, no seasonal storage needed. Food is literally everywhere around them, growing continuously, accessible year-round. This abundance removes time pressure, allowing the unhurried lifestyle that defines pandas. They do adjust to seasonal changes, moving elevations to follow bamboo quality, timing reproduction to optimize cub survival. But these adjustments are gradual, driven by environmental cues rather than internal scheduling. Pandas don't anticipate, they respond, living reactively rather than proactively. Modern pandas in captivity adopt human schedules to some degree. Feeding times, enclosure, cleaning, veterinary checks. Captive pandas learn these patterns, anticipating keeper arrival, adjusting behavior to institutional rhythms. But fundamentally, they remain creatures of the eternal now, patience embodied, living proof that you can survive without planning every minute. You might structure your days rigidly, segmenting time into boxes, rushing between commitments. Panda's approach offers alternative, responding to immediate needs, moving when movement is required, resting when energy permits. It's not better or worse, just different, revealing that multiple valid approaches exist for organizing a life. Pandas can recognize each other individually. Studies show pandas distinguish familiar from unfamiliar individuals by scent and appearance, remembering other pandas they've encountered previously, adjusting behavior based on relationship history. They have panda ecognition software built into their brains, social memory supporting their solitary lifestyle. This recognition ability surprises people who assume solitary animals lack social sophistication. But solitary doesn't mean antisocial. It means preferring space while retaining ability to interact when necessary. Pandas remember neighbors, rivals, potential mates, using this information to navigate their social landscape despite rarely seeking company. They apparently recognize humans, too. Captive pandas distinguish between keepers, responding differently to familiar versus unfamiliar people, showing preferences for particular individuals. Some pandas are friendlier with certain keepers, cooperate more readily, relax more completely. Individual relationships emerging despite the species barrier. Do they recognize other species as individuals? Probably not, beyond humans and other pandas. Their perceptual world is likely divided into rough categories: pandas, humans, threats, non-threats, without the fine discrimination they apply to their own kind. You get individual recognition. Deer do not. You recognize individual pandas, probably at least famous ones, like those you've seen repeatedly in videos. That recognition crosses species boundaries, testament to sophisticated facial recognition capabilities humans possess. Pandas recognize each other. You recognize pandas. Mutual recognition without mutual understanding. Pandas have been kept in captivity for over 4,000 years. Ancient Chinese writings describe pandas in imperial menageries, kept as curiosities, symbols of power, living emblems of the emperor's dominion over rare and exotic creatures. These early captive pandas rarely bred, their needs poorly understood, their lives likely short and uncomfortable by modern standards. Modern captive breeding has been much more successful. Understanding panda reproductive biology, perfecting artificial insemination techniques, learning correct coopering protocols, all developed since the 1980s, has increased breeding success dramatically. More than 500 pandas now live in captivity worldwide, a population that could theoretically sustain itself without wild recruitment. Captive-born pandas have been released into the wild. China's reintroduction program trains captive pandas for release, teaching them to climb, forage, and avoid predators before freeing them in protected reserves. Success has been mixed. Some released pandas thrived, others died. The program still experimental, outcomes uncertain. The goal is creating self-sustaining populations backed by captive reserves. If wild populations crash, captive pandas could theoretically repopulate empty habitat, serving as genetic and demographic backup. Its insurance policy against extinction, acknowledging that wild conservation alone might not suffice. You're watching an experiment in species salvation. Captive breeding as extinction insurance is relatively new at this scale. Most endangered species lack the resources pandas receive. Whether it works long-term remains unknown. Pandas are test case for questions we hope never need answering for countless other species. A panda's skin is black under black fur, pink under white fur. This pigmentation pattern extends beneath the surface, the skin itself colored to match the overlying hair. Its thorough melanization, pigment distributed through multiple tissue layers, creating complete color zones rather than just surface patterns. Food passes through their digestive system in 8 to 14 hours. This rapid transit time, quick for herbivores, means pandas extract minimal nutrition from each bite. Most bamboo passes through partially digested, the short intestines, and rapid processing, unable to break down cellulose effectively. Its quantity over quality strategy, throughput compensating for inefficiency. They produce 40 to 100 droppings daily. This prodigious output, one of the highest among mammals their size, reflects the sheer volume of material passing through. Panda droppings are recognizable, cylindrical, packed with undigested bamboo fiber, odorless, almost pleasant-smelling, with a faint bamboo scent. Their gut bacteria are typical carnivore bacteria, not herbivore ones. Unlike cows or rabbits, with specialized cellulose-digesting microbes, pandas have bacterial communities resembling those of dogs or cats. These bacteria are poorly adapted for bamboo digestion. Another sign that pandas' herbivory is relatively recent evolutionarily, their guts not having caught up with their dietary shift. You digest your omnivorous diet efficiently with 20 to 30 feet of intestines processing food for 24 to 72 hours. Pandas manage with less than half that intestinal length and a third that processing time, trying to be herbivores with carnivore equipment. It works, but barely testament to evolution making do with available structures, rather than designing optimal solutions from scratch. Pandas are crepuscular, most active during dawn and dusk. These twilight hours avoid the heat of midday and the cold of midnight, offering comfortable temperatures for activity. Not that pandas are highly active, even then just marginally more active than their usual barely moving baseline, shifting feeding locations, repositioning themselves, engaging in the energetic activities that constitute panda busyness. They don't strictly follow this pattern, though. Pandas eat and rest around the clock. Activity distributed across day and night without strong circadian preference. They're more active during dawn and dusk on average, but individual pandas at any given moment might be found eating, sleeping, or moving regardless of time. This flexibility allows them to optimize for temperature and bamboo availability rather than being locked into temporal niches. If particularly good bamboo is available at noon, they'll eat at noon. If weather is pleasant at midnight, they'll feed at midnight. Flexibility is advantage when food surrounds you constantly. Captive pandas develop routines around keeper schedules. They learn feeding times, anticipate cleaning schedules, adjust their activity patterns to institutional rhythms. This learned flexibility demonstrates cognitive sophistication, adjusting behavior to predictable environmental patterns, even artificial ones. You probably follow stronger circadian rhythms than pandas. your sleep-wake cycles more rigidly defined. Humans are typically diurnal or occasionally nocturnal, but rarely truly flexible across the 24-hour cycle. Panda's approach is more fluid, less constrained, responding to immediate conditions rather than internal clocks, though tonight you're adopting panda time, letting day-night distinctions blur into gentle transition towards sleep. Pandas at different elevations eat different bamboo species. Mountain ranges contain bamboo diversity umbrella bamboo at high elevations, arrow bamboo at middle altitudes, giant bamboo at lower elevations. Pandas move between zones, sampling diversity, selecting species based on seasonal quality, creating dietary variety within bamboo specialization. Some bamboo species are preferred over others. Fargesia bambua genus, common in panda habitat, particularly favored. Its shoots highly nutritious, its leaves palatable even when mature. Given choice, pandas select Fargesia over less desirable species, showing clear preferences, exercising discrimination within their narrow menu. They eat different bamboo parts seasonally. Spring brings fresh shoots high in protein and moisture, which pandas consume preferentially. Summer shifts to leaves. Autumn and winter emphasize stems and mature culms, less nutritious but available when better options have been depleted. It's seasonal cycling within bamboo specialization, small variations on the single theme. Individual pandas show personal preferences. Some individuals favor shoots, others eat more leaves. Some spend more time on certain species, others avoid them. This individual variation might reflect learned behaviors, early experiences, or subtle physiological differences affecting taste, perception, or digestive efficiency. You have food preferences too, favorites that might seem odd to others, aversions that seem irrational. Pandas are similar, all eating bamboo, but each with personal variations on that theme. Individuality expressed even in something as seemingly uniform as bamboo consumption. Personality emerges everywhere, even in dietary minutiae. A panda's tail is surprisingly long, about 6 inches, substantial for a bear. Most bear species have barely visible nubs. Pandas have actual tails, though still short by general mammal standards. These tails might seem vestigial nused remnants of ancestral anatomy, but they serve function. The tail has scent glands that pandas use for marking. They'll back against trees and rub their tails, depositing secretions, leaving chemical signatures. The tail's length provides leverage for this marking behavior, extending reach, improving scent placement. Pandas can manipulate their tails somewhat, moving them voluntarily, though not with great dexterity. You'll see pandas flicking their tails occasionally, position adjustments, minor movements that might convey emotional states to other pandas or simply be autonomic responses to internal states. Cubs are sometimes born with slightly longer tails proportionally as they grow. Their bodies outpace tail growth, resulting in the short adult tail. Whether this reflects ancestral tail length is speculative. Perhaps pandas once had longer tails that shortened evolutionarily, or perhaps the relative proportions just shift during development. You likely have a tailbone coccyx vestigial remnant of your ancestors' tails. Now just a few fused vertebrae supporting pelvic floor muscles. Pandas have functional tails, short but present. Each lineage carries history in modified anatomy, structures serving new purposes or reduced to remnants, evolution layering present over past. without erasing earlier forms completely. Pandas experience stress in captivity despite outward appearance of contentment. Chronic stress markers appear in their hormones, behaviors, and health outcomes. Stereotypic pacing, reduced breeding success, higher disease susceptibility. Those peaceful-looking pandas might be experiencing quiet anxiety, stress manifesting subtly rather than dramatically. Modern zoos have dramatically improved panda welfare. Understanding their needs, complex climbing structures, visual barriers providing privacy, varied feeding schedules preventing boredom, temperature-controlled environments has reduced stress markers substantially. Contemporary panda enclosures bear little resemblance to the barren concrete pits of mid-20th century zoos. Enrichment activities stimulate natural behaviors. Keepers hide food throughout enclosures, requiring pandas to search and forage. Scent enrichment introduces novel odors. Climbing structures encourage arboreal behavior. Puzzle feeders engage problem-solving. These activities create behavioral opportunities beyond just eating and sleeping, providing cognitive stimulation. Yet captivity remains compromise. Even the best zoo cannot replicate wild mountain forests' full complexity, the seasonal changes, the weather variability, the subtle gradients in bamboo availability that wild pandas navigate. Captive pandas live comfortable lives, but constrained ones, safety and security, traded for freedom and complexity. You're constrained too differently. Social obligations, work schedules, built environments. Modern human life restricts spontaneity, confines behavior within expected bounds, trades freedom for security, just as captivity does. Perhaps everyone is somewhat captive to their circumstances. Pandas just more literally and obviously so. Pandas have been diplomatic gifts throughout history. Ancient Chinese emperors gave pandas to foreign dignitaries, cementing alliances, displaying generosity, sharing rare national treasures. During the Cold War, China gifted pandas to allied nations, the Soviet Union, North Korea, strengthening political bonds through ursine ambassadors. The most famous diplomatic pandas went to the United States in 1972. Following Nixon's historic China visit, China gifted to pandas Ling Ling and Xing Xing to the National Zoo in Washington, D.C. These pandas became celebrities, symbols of warming Sino-American relations, living embodiments of diplomatic thaw translated into black and white fur. Modern arrangements are loans rather than gifts. China maintains ownership. Foreign institutions paying annual fees, typically $1 million per pando, with strict protocols governing care, breeding, and cub repatriation. Its sophisticated soft power, generating goodwill and revenue while maintaining ultimate control. No wild pandas exist outside China. All 1,800 plus wild pandas live within Chinese borders, making pandas uniquely Chinese. In a way, few species belong exclusively to single nations. This geographic restriction makes pandas potent national symbols, representatives of Chinese wildlife conservation efforts, ambassadors whose presence abroad still marks them as Chinese. You're free to travel internationally. Pandas are not. Their movements are controlled, governed by international agreements, subject to political considerations. They're powerful but constrained, symbols rather than autonomous beings, reminding us that even icons remain subject to forces beyond their control. A mother panda's commitment to her cub is extraordinary. For the first month, she barely eats, doesn't leave the den, holds her infant almost continuously. She loses significant body weight, up to 40 pounds, during this maternal devotion period, sacrificing her own condition to ensure her cub's survival. She keeps the cub warm through continuous contact. Newborns cannot thermoregulate; they die from hypothermia within hours if not maintained at correct temperature. The mother's body provides warmth. Her fur creates microclimate. Her embrace prevents the heat loss that would kill her palm-sized infant. She stimulates the cub to eliminate waste. Newborns cannot urinate or defecate voluntarily. The mother must lick the genital area to trigger elimination, then consume the waste to keep the den clean. This maternal service continues for weeks until cubs develop voluntary elimination control. She defends the den against all threats. During those vulnerable early weeks, mother pandas are unusually aggressive, attacking intruders, including humans, if they approach too closely. The normally gentle bears become fierce defenders, maternal instinct overriding their typical conflict avoidance tendencies. You were cared for similarly once, helpless infant, requiring constant attention, surviving only through devoted parenting. Different details, same fundamental dynamic, vulnerable young depending on parental sacrifice. Adults investing enormously in next generation's survival. Its mammalian pattern playing out in humans and pandas alike, with species-specific variations on universal theme. Pandas show individual personalities distinct as humans. Some individuals are bold, curious, exploratory, investigating novel objects, approaching keepers confidently, trying new behaviors readily. Others are shy, cautious, neophobic, avoiding change, startling easily, preferring familiar routines. These temperamental differences persist across lifetimes, shaping how individual pandas experience their worlds. Some pandas are playful, even as adults. Most pandas lose playfulness after maturity, reserving energy for eating and reproduction. But occasional individuals remain playful into adulthood, rolling down hills, playing with objects, engaging in behaviors that serve no obvious function beyond enjoyment. Whatever subjective experience underlies such behaviors in pandas. These personality differences affect breeding success. Bold females more readily accept males. Cautious females may reject advances. Playful individuals adapt better to captivity's novelties. Anxious individuals struggle with environmental changes. Personality matters in pandas as in humans, shaping life outcomes, creating individual trajectories within species-typical patterns. Keepers learn individual preferences, which pandas like apples, which prefer bamboo shoots, who tolerates handling, who must be approached cautiously. These learned relationships require treating pandas as individuals rather than interchangeable representatives of their species. Recognizing uniqueness that exists at every biological level, from molecules to personalities. You have personality that shapes your experience. So do pandas. Neither is automatic response machine, simply executing species-typical programming. Both are individuals navigating life through filters of temperament, preference, history-conscious beings, in pandas' case, to unknown degree, definitely conscious in yours, both experiencing existence through uniquely individual perspectives. Let personality dissolve as sleep approaches. The characteristics that define waking you preferences, anxieties, ambitions softening, fading, releasing their grip, become like a sleeping panda, still you, but quieter, simpler, reduced to basic functions. personality temporarily suspended in the dissolution of consciousness into rest. Pandas' reproductive rate is among the lowest of any mammal. Females breed first at 4 to 8 years old, then produce cubs only every 2 years, at best more often every 3 years. With 20-year reproductive lifespan, a female might produce 6 to 10 cubs total, of which perhaps half survive to independence. This slow reproduction makes population recovery difficult, prevents rapid population growth even with perfect conditions. Compare this to rodents producing multiple litters annually with dozens of offspring, or even to other bears with higher breeding frequencies. Pandas are slow breeders among the generally slow-breeding bears. K-selected strategists, extreme even among K-selected species, investing enormously in few offspring rather than producing many and hoping some survive. This reproductive rate was sustainable historically when panda populations were large and stable. In equilibrium with carrying capacity, slow reproduction matched slow mortality, populations remaining stable across generations. Only with human-caused mortality increases and habitat loss did slow reproduction become disadvantage, populations unable to compensate for increased deaths. Now, slow reproduction hampers recovery. Even with perfect conservation, panda populations grow slowly 3 to 5% annually at best, meaning decades are required for substantial increases. There's no quick fix, no rapid rebound, just patient, slow growth requiring sustained protection over multiple generations. You mature faster and could reproduce more frequently than pandas. Humans reach reproductive maturity earlier, could potentially have more offspring in shorter time frames. Yet, humans also invest enormously in each child, years of care required. Modern humans typically limiting family size through choice, fast reproduction potential, slow reproduction practice, different constraints, producing similar outcomes. Pandas have been featured in animation and media countless times. From early documentary footage to modern animated films, pandas appear constantly in media. Their distinctive appearance and gentle reputation making them perfect characters. Po in Kung Fu Panda, the Panda family in Skunk Fu. Documentaries narrated by famous actors. Pandas are media darlings, starring roles guaranteed by their visual appeal. This media presence has both helped and complicated conservation. Exposure raises awareness, generates concern, motivates donations. Media pandas, saving real pandas through publicity. But media also creates unrealistic expectations, portraying pandas as cuddly pets rather than wild animals, simplifying complex conservation issues into feel-good narratives. The real conservation story is less Hollywood-friendly. It's about land use conflicts, poverty, alleviation, climate change, genetic management complex, unglamorous work happening far from cameras. Media pandas are symbols. Real pandas are wild animals needing habitat, food, and space more than attention. Yet symbols matter. Conservation requires public support, political will, funding, all enhanced by charismatic symbols. Pandas excel as symbols, their appearance and behavior making them effective ambassadors for less photogenic conservation needs. They're gateway species, introducing people to broader environmental concerns through their individual appeal. You know pandas largely through media representation, curated images and narratives, rather than direct experience. This mediated knowledge is real knowledge, nonetheless, different from, but not inferior to, direct observation. Modern life requires trusting indirect sources, building understanding from representations, creating mental models of things never personally encountered. Bamboo comprises 99% of wild panda diet, but that remaining 1% matters. Occasionally, pandas eat flowers, particularly iris, crocus, and various alpine species seeking minerals or nutrients bamboo lacks. They might catch small rodents, opportunistically, consume bird eggs if encountered, scavenge carrion, rarely dietary supplements that might provide crucial micronutrients. They're known to seek out salt and mineral licks. Mountain springs with mineral-rich water attract pandas who drink and sometimes eat the mineral-deposited soil, obtaining sodium, calcium, or other elements deficient in bamboo. These mineral sources can become important resources. Multiple pandas visiting the same sites, creating uncharacteristic aggregations. In agricultural areas, pandas occasionally raid crops. Corn is sometimes consumed when available at forest edges, providing a calorie-rich supplement to bamboo's meager offerings. This creates human-wildlife conflict: farmers losing crops to endangered animals, conservation priorities conflicting with local livelihoods. These dietary supplements might be crucial for long-term health, while pandas can survive on bamboo alone. Optimal health might require occasional dietary diversity, small amounts of varied nutrients, maintaining systems that pure bamboo diet leaves marginally nourished. The supplements might be difference between surviving and thriving. You're omnivorous, eating varied diets naturally, nutritional needs met through diversity. Pandas are specialist herbivores who nonetheless seem to benefit from occasional dietary variety, suggesting that pure specialization might be less pure than we imagine, that even specialists maintain flexibility at the margins. Pandas communicate with cubs through various sounds and behaviors. Mothers and cubs maintain almost constant vocal contact: soft bleats, chirps, and honks, keeping them coordinated. If a cub wanders, the mother bleats, the cub responds, guiding reunion. This vocal tether prevents separation in dense bamboo where visual contact is difficult. Physical contact is constant during early months. The mother cradles the cub against her chest, one paw curved around it protectively. As the cub grows and becomes mobile, they maintain contact through grooming, playing, resting together, touch, language expressing and maintaining their bond. Cubs learn from mothers through observation and practice. They watch her select bamboo, observing which species to eat, which parts to prefer. They practice climbing on her patient body before attempting trees. They learn to swim when she crosses streams, following her lead. It's cultural transmission, knowledge passing generation to generation through demonstration and imitation. The bond eventually dissolves as cubs mature. Around 18 months, mothers begin distancing themselves, preparing for next breeding season, pushing increasingly independent offspring toward solitary lives. The separation is gradual, cubs spending increasing time alone before finally departing maternal territory entirely. You learned from parents too, different lessons but similar mechanisms: observation, imitation, practice under protective supervision. Parental investment isn't just physical care, but knowledge transfer, competencies passed intergenerationally, culture emerging from repeated learning across generations. Pandas are technically classified as bears family, Ursidae, but their exact relationship to other bears was debated for decades. Early taxonomists thought them more related to raccoons than bears, placing them in Procyon based on skull features and dental characteristics. Others created a separate family Ailuropidae exclusively for pandas. Molecular evidence settled the debate. DNA analysis confirmed pandas are true bears, diverging from other ursids about 19 million years ago. They're most closely related to spectacled bears, South American bears, also considered primitive, forming an early branch in bear evolution, while remaining firmly within the bear family tree. This taxonomic confusion reflects how specialized pandas became. Convergent evolution with other bambooders, particularly red pandas, which are raccoon relatives, created superficial similarities that masked true relationships. Function-shaped form, similarly in unrelated lineages, creating misleading resemblances. The giant pandas' scientific name Ailuropidae, melanoleucamines, black and white catfoot, reflecting early confusion about its affinities. Its cat-footed bear, raccoon-like, orchid, bamboo-eating, carnivore, contradictory descriptions, all accurate from different perspectives, showing how specialization can make organisms difficult to categorize. Your Isili, classified, clearly a primate, obviously a human. But evolutionary history creates puzzles, lineages diverging and specializing until relationships become obscure, requiring molecular evidence to reveal what morphology conceals. Pandas remind us that surface appearance can mislead, that understanding requires looking deeper than obvious features. A panda cub's eyes open at 6 to 8 weeks of age. Until then, the cub is blind, navigating by scent and touch, dependent entirely on mother keeping track of it. The opening of the eyes is milestone, beginning of visual awareness, first glimpses of the world the cub will navigate throughout its life. Their first teeth appear around 4 to 5 months. Until then, cubs are toothless, subsisting entirely on mother's milk, unable to sample bamboo despite living surrounded by it. The eruption of milk teeth allows gradual weaning, introduction to solid food, transition from milk to bamboo beginning. Cubs begin eating bamboo around 6 months, but don't wean completely until 8 to 9 months. This gradual transition allows digestive system adjustment, learning which bamboo parts are edible, developing jaw strength needed for chewing tough stems. It's apprenticeship in being a panda, learning specialized skills over months of practice. Full-sized permanent teeth don't finish erupting until about 18 months. Until then, cubs' chewing ability is limited, restricting them to softer bamboo parts, creating ongoing dependence on mother's milk supplementation. Even as they become physically independent, dental development constrains their diet, prolonging maternal dependency. You developed teeth on similar schedule milk teeth in infancy. Permanent teeth emerging across childhood and adolescence. Dental development paces dietary transitions in mammals generally. Physical capability enabling behavioral shifts. Biology determining what's possible at each life stage. Pandas are no different fundamentally, just specialized in details. Pandas have been extirpated from much of their historical range. Regions where pandas lived a century ago now contain only memories, museum specimens, local legends, old records documenting presence where absence now reigns. The Chinese provinces of Shanxi, Gansu, and Sichuan once harbored continuous panda populations. Now they contain fragmented remnants separated by developed lowlands. These local extinctions happened gradually. Human expansion incrementally reducing habitat, fragmenting populations. creating isolated patches where extinction becomes inevitable through demographic and genetic collapse. It's death by 1,000 cuts. No single event causing collapse, but accumulated pressures making persistence impossible. Some areas are being recolonized naturally as conservation efforts protect and restore habitat. Pandas occasionally wander into previously abandoned ranges, reoccupying historic territory. These recodifies are celebrated but remain uncommon. Most extirpated populations staying extinct, empty habitat remaining empty despite protection. Assisted recodify might help. Conservation planners consider translocating pandas to suitable but currently unoccupied habitat, recreating populations in extirpated ranges, expanding the species' footprint beyond current restricted areas. Such efforts are controversial, technically challenging, ecologically risky, expensive, but potentially necessary for long-term recovery. You've probably never visited panda habitat, never walked the misty mountain forests they inhabit. Few people have. These remote, steep landscapes are difficult to access, uncomfortable to visit, unsuited for tourism development. Pandas live in places humans find challenging, their last refuges being areas we choose not to occupy, testament to how we've reshaped the planet to our preferences. Pandas, in winter, descend mountains to follow bamboo, but they never travel vast distances like migratory species. Their movements are altitudinal rather than latitudinal, undown rather than north and south, covering only a few thousand vertical feet rather than thousands of horizontal miles. It's migration in miniature, seasonal adjustments to local conditions rather than continental-scale journeys. This limited mobility makes habitat fragmentation particularly damaging. Species that migrate long distances can potentially move around obstacles. Pandas cannot. A highway bisecting habitat might be minor inconvenience to birds, but insurmountable barrier to pandas, preventing access to seasonal resources, fragmenting populations as effectively as ocean separates islands. Their home ranges overlap considerably. Unlike territorial species that exclude conspecifics from defended areas, pandas maintain loose home ranges they share with neighbors, avoiding direct contact through scent communication but not defending boundaries aggressively. Multiple pandas might use the same areas at different times, shared space rather than exclusive territories. Range sizes vary with habitat quality. In areas with abundant, diverse bamboo, ranges might be as small as 1.5 square miles. In poorer habitat, ranges expand to 4 square miles or more. Pandas traveling farther to meet nutritional needs. Quality matters more than quantities. Small, rich habitats can support pandas better than large, poor ones. You probably have daily range to homework, regular destinations forming familiar circuit, much smaller than theoretically possible movements. Like pandas, you likely overlap ranges with others, sharing space through temporal separation. Each of us navigating territories we don't exclusively own but regularly use. Spatial behavior is universal among mobile organisms, each species expressing it in species-specific ways. Let your awareness drift like a panda wandering through bamboo, purposeless meandering. No destination, just gentle movement through green spaces, finding comfortable spots to rest, staying briefly, then moving on, wandering and resting and wandering in endless gentle cycle that carries you now deeper into rest. Pandas leave distinctive claw marks on trees. These scratches gouged into bark as high as the panda can reach, while standing serve multiple purposes. They're visual territorial markers, damage visible from distances where scent might be missed. They're also scent posts. Glands in the paw pads leave chemical signatures mixed with the visible marks, creating multisensory messages. These marks are renewed regularly. Pandas revisit favorite marking trees, adding fresh scratches over old ones, maintaining their presence in the landscape, announcing continued occupancy. It's like updating your social media status, periodic reminders of existence, proof of ongoing presence, communication through persistent signals. Claw marks reveal individual identity. The spacing, depth, and pattern of scratches are subtly unique to each panda, recognizable to trained observers and presumably to other pandas. These signatures allow identification without visual contact. Pandas knowing who else uses their home range through reading the forest's scratch post bulletin board. Young pandas practice marking on small trees and logs. Cubs learning to be adult pandas imitate their mother's marking behavior, clumsily scratching inappropriate surfaces, gradually developing the technique and strength to mark effectively. It's learned behavior building on innate tendency, culture emerging from biology's foundation. You mark your territory differently with fences, signs, locks, rather than scratches and scent. But the principle is identical: establishing presence, claiming space, communicating boundaries. Different methods, same fundamental purpose: letting others know this space is occupied, this area is claimed, this territory has an owner. A panda's liver is unusually small for its body size. Most herbivores have enlarged livers, processing plant toxins and supporting complex digestive chemistry. Pandas' livers are closer to carnivore-sized. Another sign their herbivory is recent evolutionarily. Their physiology not fully adapted to their dietary choice. Their gallbladders are also small, producing limited bile. Bile emulsifies fats, crucial for carnivores digesting fatty meat, but less necessary for pandas eating fat-poor bamboo. This reduced gallbladder size reflects their diet's low-fat content, organ sizing following dietary demands. Pandas do have enlarged salivary glands. These produce copious saliva necessary for processing dry, fibrous bamboo, lubricating each bite, beginning digestion, protecting throat tissues from bamboo's rough edges. Pandas drool noticeably while eating, saliva production maximized to handle their unusual food. Their pancreas produces enzymes typical of carnivores rather than herbivores. They lack the specialized enzymes herbivores use to break down plant cell walls, relying instead on meat-digesting enzymes that work poorly on bamboo. It's using wrong tools for the job, succeeding through persistence and volume rather than efficiency. Your digestive organs are sized for omnivory: moderate liver, moderate gallbladder, versatile enzyme production. Your middle ground, neither specialized carnivore nor specialized herbivore, generalist capable of handling varied diets. Pandas started as specialists in one direction and shifted to specialization in another, without fully remodeling their internal equipment. Pandas can delay implantation for up to 5 months after mating and fertilization. The embryo doesn't immediately attach to the uterine wall, but floats freely, development paused, waiting for optimal conditions. Only when the female's body signals readiness, usually late summer or fall, does the embryo implant and begin developing toward birth. This delayed implantation allows flexible birth timing, by decoupling mating season from birth season. Pandas can mate when conditions favor adult activity spring, when weather is mild and adults are energetic, while ensuring cubs are born when conditions favor infant survival, winter, when mothers are prepared to den and devote full attention to cubs. Many bear species use delayed implantation, suggesting pandas inherited this trait from bear ancestors. It's pre-adaptation trait, evolving for one purpose that later serves another. Bears originally evolved delayed implantation for different reasons. Pandas use it to coordinate their unusual reproductive biology with seasonal cycles. The mechanism involves hormonal signals pausing embryonic development. Exactly what triggers implantation, what tells the embryo now is the time, involves complex hormonal cascades we're only beginning to understand. Pandas' reproductive biology remains partially mysterious despite decades of study. You experienced no delayed implantation. Human embryos implant immediately after fertilization, development proceeding without pause. This immediate implantation is typical of primates. Different strategy from pandas' flexible timing. Neither approach objectively better. Each adapted to different ecological circumstances and evolutionary histories. Pandas exhibit surprisingly little aggression given their strength and weapons. Adult pandas could easily kill each other with those massive jaws and sharp claws, yet serious fights are rare. They rely on avoidance and threat displays, chomping teeth, huffing, staring to settle disputes without violence, retreating rather than escalating when conflicts arise. This peacefulness might reflect their solitary nature. Animals that live in groups must fight occasionally to establish hierarchies. Solitary animals can simply avoid each other, making aggressive confrontations unnecessary. Why fight when you can just walk away? Why risk injury when space allows avoidance? Breeding season brings increased aggression, especially among males. Multiple males competing for fertile females leads to confrontations, posturing, vocalizing, occasionally fighting. But even then, serious injuries are uncommon. The conflicts are mostly ritualized displays, competitors assessing each other, weaker individuals conceding without actual combat. Mother pandas defending cubs are the most aggressive. Maternal aggression is fierce, and dangerous mothers will charge intruders, including humans, protecting their vulnerable offspring with ferocity that contrasts sharply with their usual gentleness. It's justified aggression, appropriate response to genuine threat. Violence reserved for circumstances where it's truly necessary. You're probably not particularly aggressive either, despite being capable of violence. Most humans, like most pandas, prefer avoiding conflict, using aggression only when necessary, relying on social signals and avoidance to prevent confrontations. Its shared pattern potential for violence combined with strong preference for peace. Pandas have been kept in Western zoos for less than a century. The first pandas arriving in Europe and America in the 1930s and 40s caused sensations. Exotic creatures from mysterious China, bears that defied expectations, animals so unusual they seemed almost mythical. Zoos competed fiercely for them, pandas becoming ultimate status symbols for zoological collections. Early captive pandas rarely thrived. Understanding their needs took decades. Correct diet, appropriate social conditions, suitable breeding arrangements. Many early captive pandas died young from malnutrition, disease, or stress. The learning curve was steep, paid for with panda lives before knowledge accumulated to improve their welfare. Breeding success was especially elusive. Captive pandas rarely reproduced naturally until the 1980s, when artificial insemination techniques were perfected. Even with AI, success was limited until researchers understood pandas' brief fertility windows, hormonal cycling, and specific conditions required for cub survival. Modern captive facilities are sophisticated. Climate control maintains appropriate temperatures. Elaborate climbing structures provide exercise and enrichment. Bamboo supplies are carefully managed for quality and variety. Veterinary care is world-class. Contemporary captive pandas live better than at any previous point in captivity history. You're witnessing the results of accumulated knowledge, current success built on previous failures, comfort purchased with earlier suffering, expertise developed through painful trial and error. Progress in any field follows this pattern. Present competence standing on past struggles, knowledge bought with mistakes. A panda's breath is surprisingly mild. Given their diet consuming dozens of pounds of plant matter daily, you'd expect strong odors. But panda breath smells faintly of bamboo, almost pleasant. Their saliva's antibacterial properties and rapid food processing prevent the decomposition that creates bad breath, keeping their mouths relatively fresh despite constant eating. Their droppings are nearly odorless too. Unlike most carnivore, pungent with bacterial breakdown of protein, panda droppings smell like slightly damp paper. The undigested bamboo fiber passing through so quickly that bacterial action remains minimal. It's surprising for bear droppings, expected to be more malodorous given the volume. Pandas themselves smell musky but not unpleasant. Their fur carries a distinctive odor, animal musk mixed with bamboo, scent recognizable and strong to human noses, but not offensive. It's the smell of a large mammal that bathes in mountain streams and rolls in vegetation. Natural odor without the rancidness carnivore scents can have. They do have strong-smelling anal gland secretions used for marking. These chemical signals are pungent to human noses, skunky, musky, penetrating, but pandas apply them to trees and rocks, not to their bodies. So the strong marking scent doesn't make the pandas themselves smell bad. You probably smell different from panda soap, deodorant, perfume, or simply human. Each species has characteristic odors, chemical signatures, identifying them, familiar to conspecifics, neutral or strange to others. Smell is identity. Chemistry is communication. Odor is information in forms we barely consciously process. Pandas are surprisingly agile despite their bulk. They can pivot quickly, climb with unexpected grace, move through dense bamboo without much noise. Their body plan powerful limbs, flexible spine, good balance, fluid movement when necessary. Capability masked by their usual slowness, potential revealed only occasionally. This hidden agility serves multiple functions. Escaping threats requires quick movement. Pandas can scramble up trees rapidly when frightened, demonstrating climbing ability they rarely display otherwise. Navigating steep mountain terrain requires sure-footedness. Pandas traverse slopes that would challenge less adapted animals, moving confidently across uneven ground. Cubs are especially agile, tumbling and climbing with abandon. Young pandas seem almost hyperactive compared to sedate adults, playing energetically, practicing physical skills they'll need as adults. This youthful exuberance gradually fades, energy conservation becoming more important as growth demands decrease. Even aged pandas retain surprising capability. Old individuals move more slowly, climb less frequently, but never completely lose their coordination. Unlike humans, who often become unsteady with age, pandas maintain balance and coordination into old age, falls, and injuries remaining rare. You're probably more agile than you think. Modern, sedentary lifestyles mask physical capabilities that emerge when needed: running from danger, climbing when required, sudden movements when circumstances demand. Like pandas, you possess more capability than daily life requires, potential held in reserve for emergencies. Pandas experience weather extremes in their mountain habitat. Summer temperatures can reach 25 degrees Celsius, 77 degrees Fahrenheit, warm by mountain standards. Winter brings snow and temperatures well below freezing, -10 degrees Celsius, 14 degrees Fahrenheit, or colder. These seasonal extremes require adaptation, behavioral flexibility, allowing pandas to remain comfortable year-round. Their thick fur provides insulation against cold. Those 2 to 3 inches of dense, oily fur trap warm air, shed moisture, keep skin dry even in snow and rain. Pandas remain active through winter, their coat sufficient protection against mountain cold. No hibernation necessary thanks to adequate insulation. They manage heat through behavioral thermoregulation. Pandas seek shade during hot weather, rest more during midday heat, increase activity during cooler morning and evening hours. They'll also soak in streams, lying in cool water to reduce body temperature, using environment to maintain thermal comfort. Their black and white coloration might help with temperature regulation. Black fur absorbs heat useful for warming extremities in cold weather. White fur reflects heat useful for keeping body core cool. The pattern might optimize thermoregulation, allowing precise control over heat absorption and reflection across the body. You regulate temperature through fewer options, just in clothing, seeking shelter, using technology. Pandas have only behavior and anatomy, no external aids, managing purely through evolutionary adaptations and behavioral choices. They succeed admirably, comfortable, across temperature ranges that would challenge less adapted species. A panda pregnancy lasts only 95 to 160 days, from implantation to birth. This variation 65-day spreads seems enormous for a species. The variability reflects uncertainty about exact implantation timing and individual variation in development rate. Add delayed implantations, sometimes 5 months, and the total time from mating to birth ranges from 3 to 11 months. This variable timing complicates captive breeding. Keepers can't simply count days from mating to predict birth. They must monitor hormonal changes, behavioral signs, appetite shifts to anticipate delivery. Even with careful monitoring, birth timing often surprises staff, cubs arriving earlier or later than expected. The brief, actual pregnancy produces tiny cubs. 6 weeks of development after implantation compared to 8 months in humans explains why panda cubs are so underdeveloped at birth. They're essentially born premature, finishing development externally rather than internally. Mothers' pouch-like arms substituting for marsupial pouches. Multiple factors influence birth timing. Maternal body condition affects when implantation occurs. Females in poor condition may delay longer, waiting for adequate fat reserves. Environmental conditions matter too. Implantation typically occurs when approaching optimal birth season, suggesting environmental cues influence embryonic development timing. You developed over 9 predictable months in utero, born relatively mature timing consistent across individuals. Pandas' variable timing reflects different reproductive strategy. Flexible scheduling, allowing adaptation to unpredictable conditions. Uncertainty traded for flexibility in species inhabiting variable environments. Pandas communicate across distances through scent stations. These key trees or rocks marked repeatedly by multiple pandas become olfactory message boards. Pandas checking them like you check your phone, reading who passed through, when, in what condition. It's asynchronous communication, messages left and received without senders and receivers ever meeting. The sophistication of this communication surprises researchers. Pandas can apparently distinguish dozens of individuals by scent, track how recently each panda visited, assess their reproductive status, even judge their diet quality, all from sniffing mark combinations on a single tree. It's information density humans struggle to appreciate. Our visual bias preventing full understanding of chemical communications richness. Pandas spend substantial time investigating scent marks. They'll sniff carefully, spending minutes analyzing a single marking post, occasionally adding their own mark, building on the chemical conversation. This careful investigation suggests they're extracting complex information, processing chemical signals as carefully as you'd read a detailed message. Seasonal changes affect scent marking intensity. During breeding season, marking increases dramatically, males marking more frequently, females advertising fertility, heightened communication, facilitating rare meetings. Outside breeding season, marking continues but less intensely, maintaining presence without urgent mating motivation. You communicate through abstract symbols, words, images, digital signals. Pandas communicate through molecules, complex mixtures, conveying identity and status. Neither system is primitive or advanced. They're simply different, each perfectly functional for the species using it, each conveying information efficiently within its modality. Let your thoughts become like scent marks dissipating in mountain breeze, present but fading, meaningful but impermanent, existing briefly before dispersing into air, information dissolving as sleep approaches, consciousness fragmenting into the formless drift that precedes dreams. Pandas rarely interact directly with other species. They're not particularly social with anything, not other mammals, not birds, barely tolerating their own species. They exist as gentle giants, moving through forests in splendid isolation, noticed by other animals, but not engaging with them, present but apart. Small birds sometimes follow pandas, picking insects disturbed by panda movement. These avian companions benefit from panda activity without pandas caring about their presence. Commensalism, relationship benefiting one party while neither helping nor harming the other. Pandas neither encourage nor discourage their small followers. Predators give adult pandas wide berth, while cubs are vulnerable, taken occasionally by leopards, jackals, or martens. Adult pandas face minimal predation. Their size, strength, and those formidable jaws deter most predators. They're apex animals, not through hunting, but through being too tough to hunt. Pandas and golden monkeys share habitat peacefully. These primates inhabit the same mountain forests, sometimes the same trees, coexisting without conflict. They're feeding at different trophic levels, monkeys eating fruits and insects, pandas eating bamboo, reducing competition, allowing symmetry without antagonism. You coexist with countless species, daily birds, insects, microorganisms, mostly ignoring them, occasionally noticing, rarely interacting meaningfully. Like pandas, You're embedded in multi-species communities while remaining largely separate, present in ecosystems while functioning semi-independently, surrounded by life while focusing mostly on your own affairs. A panda's footprint is distinctive broad pad, 5 toes, often showing the pseudo-thumb's impression alongside the 5 true digits. Trackers can identify panda prints easily, distinguishing them from other bears or large mammals. Reading pandas' movements through the stories their tracks tell in mud and snow. These tracks reveal individual identity, size, shape, where patterns all vary between individuals, creating unique signatures expert trackers can distinguish. Some researchers in China know individual pandas by their tracks alone, recognizing specific bears from footprints, as you might recognize friends by their faces. Track patterns show behavioral state. Closely spaced tracks indicate slow walking or stopping to feed. Widely spaced tracks suggest hurried movement or alarm. Claw marks, gouged, deep indicate climbing. The spacing, depth, and orientation tell stories what the panda was doing, where it was going, how it was feeling. Snow tracks are especially informative. Fresh snow provides perfect medium for track preservation, creating detailed records of overnight activity, revealing where pandas traveled while humans slept, documenting the secret lives of elusive animals through the marks they leave behind. You leave footprints, too, physical and metaphorical, literal tracks in sand or snow, digital traces online. Memories in people's minds, forms of tracks, marks of your passage, evidence of your existence persisting after you've moved on. Everyone leaves traces. Pandas just leave theirs in mud and snow rather than data and memories. Pandas' digestive systems contain bacteria that might have biotechnology applications. These microbes, capable of breaking down bamboo's tough cellulose, could potentially be used for biofuel production, turning plant waste into energy. Researchers study panda gut bacteria, seeking enzymes that might have industrial applications. Unlikely conservation benefiting emerging technologies. The bacteria are surprisingly unspecialized. Unlike ruminant bacteria highly adapted for digesting grass, panda gut bacteria are generalist decomposers, not particularly efficient but adequate for their task. This reflects pandas' relatively recent dietary shift. Their microbiome hasn't evolved specialized bamboo digesting communities yet. Pandas' microbiomes vary individually and seasonally. Different pandas host slightly different bacterial communities, influenced by diet, age, and health status. Within individuals, bacterial communities shift seasonally as bamboo species and parts consumed change. Microbiome responding to dietary variation. Cubs acquire gut bacteria from mothers. Initial colonization happens during birth and nursing. Mother's bacteria establishing in the cub's sterile gut, creating the microbial community that will process bamboo throughout the cub's life. It's vertical transmission culture, passed generation to generation, this time microbial culture rather than behavioral. Your gut contains trillions of bacteria collectively weighing several pounds, processing your food, synthesizing vitamins, influencing health in ways science is only beginning to understand. You're not an individual, but an ecosystem. Human cells outnumbered by bacterial cells 10-1. Pandas are similar individuals comprised of multiple species living in careful symbiosis. Pandas are more active than they appear. Those videos showing pandas lounging, sleeping, eating slowly, they're accurate but incomplete. Pandas also walk miles daily, climb tall trees, navigate steep terrain, move decisively when motivated. Their average activity level is low, but they're capable of substantial activity when circumstances require it. They're not lazy, they're energy efficient. Every movement costs calories extracted with difficulty from bamboo. Minimizing unnecessary movement maximizes survival. Why run when walking suffices? Why walk when sitting works? Why stay awake when sleeping conserves energy? It's not laziness, but wise resource management, efficiency born of necessity. Younger pandas are more active than adults. Cubs play energetically, exploring widely, moving continuously. As they age, activity decreases, energy conservation becoming increasingly important. It's not aging making them sedentary, it's maturity, bringing understanding of energy economics. Experience teaching the value of stillness. Captive pandas often appear less active than wild ones, with food provided, temperature controlled, and safety guaranteed. Captive pandas have even less reason to move. Wild pandas must forage across slopes, respond to weather, maintain vigilance constraints, creating activity that captivity eliminates. You've probably been told to exercise more, that sedentary behavior is unhealthy. For humans, that's true. Our bodies evolved for activity. Pandas evolved differently. Their bodies expect and cope with minimal movement. Their metabolism adapted to stillness. What's healthy varies by species. Appropriate activity level determined by evolutionary history rather than universal standard. Pandas produce sounds humans can hear and ultrasonic calls we cannot. These high-frequency vocalizations beyond human hearing range might serve specific communication functions, perhaps between mothers and cubs, possibly during mating. We're only beginning to discover this hidden acoustic world. Realizing pandas' vocal repertoire exceeds what we can naturally perceive. This ultrasonic communication is common in small mammals. Rodents use it extensively, but unusual in large mammals. Pandas might have retained this ability from smaller ancestors, or evolved it independently for specific purposes. The function remains speculative. Ultrasonic panda communication being recent discovery requiring further study. Cubs might use ultrasound to signal mothers. High-frequency calls would travel short distances, perfect for cub-mother communication within the den while remaining inaudible to predators. Its private channel, intimate communication, undetectable to threats, safety through acoustic invisibility. Recording equipment reveals these hidden sounds. Special microphones capturing ultrasonic frequencies show pandas vocalizing silently from human perspective. Inaudible conversations happening constantly. It's humbling reminder that our senses reveal only portions of reality. Other species experiencing worlds we cannot naturally perceive. You hear limited frequency, range 20 Hz to 20,000 Hz missing, infrasound below and ultrasound above. Many animals hear frequencies you cannot, living in richer acoustic environments, perceiving sounds your ears miss. Reality extends beyond human sensory limits in every modality. The world always more complex than any single species can perceive. Pandas have been subjects of extensive genetic research. Their genome was sequenced in 2009, revealing 21,000 genes, similar to humans, with high genetic similarity to other bears, confirming their phylogenetic position while revealing unique genetic adaptations for bamboo digestion and low-energy lifestyle. One discovery surprised researchers. Pandas lack the umami taste receptor. Umami's savory taste, sensing amino acids, helps carnivores identify protein-rich foods. Pandas lost this receptor, possibly because bamboo contains little protein, making umami detection unnecessary. Its evolutionary streamlining losing unused capabilities, simplifying what's no longer needed. They retain sweet taste receptors, despite eating non-sweet foods. This seems puzzling. Why maintain sweet detection when bamboo isn't sweet? Perhaps these receptors detect other molecules beyond typical sugars, or perhaps losing them would somehow harm other systems. Or perhaps there simply hasn't been selection pressure sufficient to eliminate them. Genetic diversity is concerningly low. Small population size and historical bottlenecks have reduced genetic variation, creating vulnerability to diseases and reduced adaptability. Conservation genetics focuses on maintaining what diversity remains, carefully managing breeding to prevent further losses, maximize genetic health in remaining populations. Your genome contains similar gene count to pandas, about 20,000 to 25,000 genes, reminding us that complexity isn't simply about gene quantity, but about regulation, combination, expression, timing. Pandas and humans share substantial genetic similarity despite vast differences in form and behavior, showing how small genetic variations create large phenotypic differences. Pandas sometimes engage in solitary play as adults. Most adult pandas never play, but occasional individuals will slide down snowy slopes, roll with objects, manipulate toys in captivity behaviors, serving no obvious function beyond enjoyment. Whether pandas experience joy is unknowable, but they engage in behaviors that look playful, suggesting positive, affective states. Play decreases with age universally in mammals. Young animals play to develop skills, learn coordination, practice behaviors they'll need as adults. Adult play, when it occurs, might maintain flexibility, relieve stress, or simply persist as vestigial behavior continuing past its developmental purpose. Captive pandas play more than wild ones. Enrichment programs encourage play through novel objects, food puzzles, environmental modifications. With survival pressures removed, energy available for non-essential behaviors emerges. Play becoming possible in lives no longer dominated by foraging necessity. Snow seems to particularly stimulate play. Pandas in snowy conditions, wild and captive both, show increased playful behavior, rolling in snow, sliding down slopes, manipulating snow objects. Why snow stimulates play remains unclear. Perhaps novelty, perhaps physical properties making it fun to manipulate, perhaps associations with youthful experiences. You played as a child, play less as adult, possibly miss it. Play is universal in young mammals, serving development, becoming optional as maturity arrives. Some adults maintain playfulness, others lose it entirely. Pandas mirror this pattern, mostly serious adults, occasionally playful individuals. Youthful exuberance, fading with maturity's energy constraints. Let playfulness dissolve like snow melting in spring sun. Serious adult concerns fading, childhood lightness returning briefly. That state before responsibility and worry, when existence was simpler, when rest came easily, when sleep was effortless, return to peace rather than escape from stress. Pandas can survive in degraded habitat better than once thought. While pristine bamboo forest is optimal, pandas persist in partially logged forests, areas with some human presence, habitat fragments smaller than ideal. They're more resilient than early assessments suggested, adaptable within limits, capable of tolerating imperfection. This resilience offers hope, but also creates challenges. It means pandas might survive without perfect conservation, but also that protection standards might relax. Good enough replacing optimal. The question becomes, should we accept panda persistence in marginal habitat or push for restoration of excellent habitat? Habitat quality affects reproduction more than survival. Adults can survive in poor habitat, but breeding success declines. Cub survival decreases. Population growth stalls. So while pandas persist, they don't thrive. Populations maintained rather than growing. Existence continuing without flourishing. Different bamboo species vary in quality. Some provide better nutrition, support higher panda densities, allow better reproductive success. Habitat with diverse high-quality bamboo supports more pandas than habitat with single poor-quality species. Bamboo composition matters as much as bamboo abundance. Your environment affects your well-being similarly. You might survive in suboptimal conditions, poor housing, inadequate food, stressful circumstances, but surviving isn't thriving. Quality matters. Optimal conditions, supporting flourishing, while marginal conditions allow only persistence. Pandas and humans alike need more than bare minimum to truly thrive. Pandas are increasingly seen as conservation success story. From lows around 1,000 individuals, wild populations have rebounded to 1,800 plus, still endangered but improving. Habitat protection, corridor restoration, reduced poaching, successful captive breeding all contributed to this recovery, showing that conservation can work when resources and political will align. Yet, challenges remain. Climate change threatens bamboo distribution, potentially shifting habitats faster than pandas can adapt. Human development continues, pressuring remaining habitat. Genetic diversity remains low. Success is fragile, requiring continued effort, vulnerable to policy changes or resource reductions. The panda's status was downgraded from endangered to vulnerable in 2016. This reclassification celebrated conservation success, while concerning some advocates who feared reduced protections might accompany the status change. China rejected the downgrading, maintaining highest protection level regardless of international classification changes. Pandas became symbol of conservation success precisely because success seemed unlikely. Specialist species with low reproduction, restricted range, declining populations, they seemed doomed. That they've recovered, however incompletely, provides hope for other species, demonstrates that intensive conservation can work, proves that extinction isn't inevitable, even for highly threatened species. You live in an era where conservation outcomes remain uncertain. Some species recover, others decline. Pandas show recovery is possible, but not guaranteed, requiring sustained effort, substantial resources, political commitment across decades. Their partial success is both encouragement and reminder that conservation is an ongoing process, never finished, always requiring renewed commitment. Pandas have been studied in the wild for only about 40 years intensively, despite being known to science for over a century. Systematic field studies didn't begin until the 1980s, when Chinese and international researchers established long-term projects in panda reserves. Before then, pandas were mysteries, glimpsed occasionally, understood poorly, their wild behavior largely unknown. These field studies revealed surprising behaviors. Pandas were more mobile than expected, their home ranges larger, their social interactions more complex. Early assumptions based on captive observations proved incomplete or wrong. The real panda, the wild animal in its natural habitat, differed from the zoo panda that shaped public perception. Radio collar studies tracked movements year-round. Researchers captured pandas temporarily, fitted radio transmitters, then tracked their movements across seasons, documenting elevation changes, feeding patterns, breeding behaviors. This technology revealed the hidden lives of animals, too elusive for direct observation. Invisible creatures made visible through electronic signals. Camera traps now provide unprecedented documentation. Motion-triggered cameras capture images of unmarked pandas going about their lives, feeding, traveling, marking, occasionally interacting. These candid photos reveal natural behaviors undisturbed by human observers, creating visual records of pandas being pandas without audience. You've never seen truly wild pandas, the ones living in remote mountains, never human-habituated, behaving purely according to panda nature. All your panda knowledge comes from mediated sources: videos, photos, captive observations. The wild panda remains largely unknowable to you, as to most people. Creature more known through representations than direct experience. A panda's vocal cords produce sounds ranging from 200 Hz to 5,000 Hz. This range encompasses most human speech frequencies. One reason panda vocalizations sound almost speech-like to human ears, their bleats and honks having familiar acoustic qualities despite being non-linguistic. They're sounds we can relate to, even without understanding them. Different vocalizations serve different purposes. Bleats signal friendliness or contentment, the sound of cubs comfortable with mothers, adults in non-threatening encounters. Huffs indicate annoyance, back-off warnings that precede more aggressive action. Roars are serious threats, rare vocalizations signaling genuine anger or danger. Pandas learn their vocalizations partially. Cubs raised in isolation produce abnormal calls, suggesting vocal development requires social learning. Like humans learning language, pandas learn pandasness from others, culture transmitted through imitation and practice, each generation teaching the next how to sound panda-like. Individual pandas have distinctive voices. Researchers familiar with specific pandas can recognize individuals by their calls. Voice as individual as appearance. Acoustic signatures, allowing identification without visual confirmation. It's like recognizing friends by their voices on the phone. Instant identification through sound alone. You use vocalizations constantly, speech, laughter, sighs, unconsciously producing sounds that convey meaning and emotion. Pandas vocalize less frequently, but similarly, sounds expressing internal states, facilitating coordination, enabling communication without requiring complex cognitive processing. Voice is ancient communication channel, predating language, still fundamental to social species. Pandas chew with a distinctive rhythm. Watch a panda eat, and you'll notice the steady tempo crunch, 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 mechanical regularity, like a metronome. Each bite taking similar time, creating soothing repetition. It's hypnotic, peaceful to watch, that steady rhythm conveying contentment, dedication, the patient persistence required to extract nutrition from bamboo. They can chew for hours without pause. Jaw muscles built for this marathon mastication never seem to tire. grinding steadily through meal after meal, only stopping for brief rests before resuming the endless chewing. It's meditation in motion, the rhythm creating trance state, focus narrowing to just the bamboo, the moment, the bite. The sound of pandas eating carries through bamboo forests. That distinctive crunching audible from dozens of meters away helps researchers locate pandas, track their positions, monitor their activities without direct observation. It's inadvertent broadcasting, pandas announcing their presence through the sounds of their feeding. Keepers report the sound being soothing. People who work with pandas describe the chewing rhythm as calming, almost musical, repetitive enough to be meditative, but varied enough to remain interesting. It's ASMR before ASMR existed, naturally occurring sounds that trigger relaxation responses in listeners. You probably follow schedules more rigidly, alarm clocks, appointments, social obligations, creating temporal structure. Pandas' flexibility might seem enviable, freedom from schedules attractive, yet structure provides benefits to coordination with others, efficient use of time, predictability that reduces uncertainty. Neither approach is universally superior. Each serves different lifestyles. Pandas coexist with numerous other rare species. Their mountain habitats harbor golden monkeys, toucans, red pandas, snow leopards assemblages of endemic and endangered species, making these regions biodiversity hotspots. Protecting pandas protects these co-inhabitants, conservation benefits cascading through communities. Some species depend on panda-modified habitats. Pandas breaking bamboo create openings. Smaller animals use their droppings, fertilize forest floors. Their presence might influence predator movements. They're ecosystem engineers on small scale. Their activities affecting local conditions, creating niches others exploit. Other species compete for resources. While bamboo is exclusively pandas, territory overlaps with other large mammals. Water sources are shared, tree dens are limited. Competition exists, but rarely intensifies to conflict. Resource partitioning and behavioral avoidance, minimizing direct antagonism. These mountain communities are interconnected webs. Each species affects others, directly or indirectly, creating complex ecological relationships we barely understand. Removing any species, pandas included would ripple through communities in ways difficult to predict, changes cascading beyond immediate effects. You're embedded in similar webs, social networks, economic systems, ecological communities. You affect others. Others affect you. All connected through visible and invisible linkages. No one exists independently. Everyone participates in networks of mutual influence. Pandas in their ecosystems. You in yours, both connected, both embedded, both affecting and affected by surrounding beings. Pandas navigate their habitat through mental maps. They remember landmarks, trail systems, feeding spots, water sources, marking locations, spatial knowledge accumulated over years, creating cognitive cartography, allowing efficient movement through familiar terrain. They know where they are, where they've been, how to reach destinations. This spatial memory is crucial for survival. Bamboo quality varies spatially and temporally. Remembering where good patches exist saves energy wasted on random searching. Knowing escape routes provides security. Recognizing boundaries prevents conflicts. Mental maps enable efficient use of complex environments. Cubs learn geography from mothers. Following mothers' paths, cubs memorize routes, Landmarks, resources. It's spatial education, knowledge transfer through shared experience. Cubs internalizing mother's geographic knowledge, adding their own discoveries as they mature into independent navigators. Pandas in unfamiliar territory are disadvantaged. Translocated pandas take time to learn new areas, wander more, feed less efficiently, show stress. Familiar territory provides comfort beyond just resources, its known space, predictable environment, home in psychological as well as physical sense. You navigate with internal maps to your neighborhood, workplace, frequently visited places, all mapped mentally. Automatic navigation requiring no conscious effort. New places demand attention. Mental mapping occurring as exploration proceeds. Like pandas, you're more comfortable in known spaces, familiarity providing security that novelty lacks. As sleep deepens fully now, let mental maps dissolve. Landmarks fading, boundaries disappearing, territory losing definition, spatial awareness collapsing into the dimensionless peace of deep rest, where location means nothing, where you exist nowhere and everywhere simultaneously. Consciousness to diffuse, to occupy specific space. And so we come to the end of our gentle journey through the peaceful world of giant pandas. We've wandered through misty mountain forests, watched mothers cradle impossibly tiny cubs, listened to the rhythmic crunching of bamboo being methodically consumed, observed the patient slowness of creatures who've mastered the art of doing little and doing it peacefully. What have pandas taught us tonight? Perhaps that slowness isn't failure, but strategy. That specialized existence living on bamboo alone can work, despite seeming improbable. That gentleness and strength coexist in the same body, that power needn't be aggressive, that survival doesn't require constant action. Pandas remind us that there are many ways to live successfully. Not the fastest, not the most efficient, not the most dramatic, but persistent, adapted, functional. They've survived 8 million years, not through dominance, but through finding a niche no one else wanted, through being content with what they have, through existing peacefully in their small mountain refuges. We've learned that pandas are more complex than their lazy reputation suggests. Devoted mothers, capable climbers, sophisticated communicators, individuals with distinct personalities. We've discovered that conservation success is possible, even for unlikely candidates, that extinction can be forestalled through sustained effort, that hope persists even when circumstances seem discouraging. But perhaps most importantly, pandas have taught us about peace tonight, about sitting still without restlessness, about eating slowly without rushing, about existing without constant striving. They've modeled a way of being that modern life often denies, and hurried, unpressured, content with simplicity. As you drift into sleep, carry pandas' peace with you, their slowness becoming your relaxation, their contentment informing your rest, their quiet existence reminding you that not every moment requires activity, that stillness has value, that rest is not failure but necessity. Thank you for spending this evening with pandas and with me. Thank you for allowing these gentle bears to guide you toward sleep, for finding peace in bamboo forests you'll never visit, in the lives of animals you'll likely never meet in the wild. The pandas continue their patient lives in distant mountains, chewing their endless bamboo, sleeping their untroubled sleep, existing as they have for millions of years. And you rest now in their reflected peace, carried toward dreams on the strength of their gentleness, lulled to sleep by the rhythm of their lives, embraced by the calm they've embodied throughout our journey together tonight. The bamboo forests continue in darkness, pandas sleeping somewhere in their mountain homes, breathing slowly, hearts beating calmly, completely at peace in their simple existence. And you drifting now through your own darkness, your own peace, your own simple existence, breathing slowly, heart beating calmly, letting the day release you into night's embrace. Sleep well, gentle traveler. Rest peacefully in the knowledge that somewhere pandas sleep too content, safe, quietly existing as they've always existed, as they'll continue to exist tomorrow and beyond. You've learned from them tonight. Now rest as they rest, sleep as they sleep. Exist for these peaceful hours as they exist always without urgency, without struggle, without anything but the gentle necessity of rest. The forest is quiet now. The bamboo rustles softly in night breezes. The pandas sleep their dreamless or dream-filled sleep. And you sleep too, carried into rest on black and white wings, cradled in bamboo dreams, held in the peace of mountains you've only imagined. Good night.